and welcome on in to another edition of the WyoNation Roundup. I am your host, Chad Smith, and tonight joined by my good friend Shea. How's it going, Shea?
Good. How's it going, Chad?
Doing great. We have lots to talk about, my friend, with Mountain West Media Days, I guess, still going. We're still seeing pictures and feeds. I think it's going to go through the night because it is Vegas, but 2 days in Vegas for the Mountain West masses to get together and break down this football season with predictions and interviews and all that good stuff. But before we press on any further, Shea, let's remind everybody, if you're watching this on Twitter, the best way to interact with the show, get your questions in, is to head on over to the YouTube channel. So it's going to be youtube.com/@WyoNation, and that's where Zachary is. Zachary says, go Pokes. So there you can get your comments up on the screen as we go through. If you have questions, comments, we can put those up live. Leave a comment while you're there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I know a lot of people watching these videos, but not everyone is subscribed. So subscribe, and you'll get the live alerts to know when we are on the air. But let's get right into it, I guess, huh? Let's bring up the Mountain West Media Day poll, which is really like the crown jewel of Media Days. And there we go, Shea. So your initial thoughts as you see this poll: Boise State first, Wyoming sixth, and then up the rear, Nevada. Not a surprise, but your thoughts on this year's media poll?
Actually, I'm surprised. I don't know when the votes go in, but I think Utah State is probably above Wyoming if they don't have the drama just based on this. I think Wyoming's probably down the 7 and 8 mark a little bit more. Just I don't think the media is high. And I want to know the media member that picked Boise State third and see if they show their face this year. Because somebody picked them third based on the math. It's probably about right. Wyoming would be second to last if we were still in divisions, and that's not a bad spot to be in. As we know, Wyoming athletics historically, when they're picked as favorites, usually crap the bed. So there's too many unknowns, and 6 and 7 is probably a good spot for Wyoming.
Sure. Now the big thing, of course, is at the top is Boise State getting the plethora of the votes, 38 first place votes. And this, I didn't know this, Shea, until I saw it. Actually, the Mountain West account actually put this out. But Boise State has been voted number one in the media poll for 14 straight years. That's just wild, right? To show the dominance they've had. During that time, they haven't won 13 titles, of course, but they've won 5 titles in 13 years, including 1 shared. So, I mean, there's a lot of pressure. They're picked to be the winner 14 years in a row now, and they have 5 titles in their name. So I know just a lot of people on Twitter mainly were complaining about Boise State. But exactly, that's what I said. And my biggest thing is last season is just the craziest. They fired their coach and still won the conference title. I mean, how does that happen? It never happens.
Yeah, they kind of forced they did ruin a good quarterback last year. I hope Green does well. But there's obviously some internal dynamics there. I actually think UNLV is too high. I think they flamed out at the end of the year, even though they beat the brakes off Wyoming for a quarter. You know, it wasn't like a blowout. I think UNLV is probably number 4. I'd put Air Force at number 2 just because Calhoun just reloads. I don't know why Fresno State's so high.
Yeah, it's history. I agree with you. I think UNLV probably is too high. I mean, they did lose a good share of players, right, who just jumped ship right away, including their starting quarterback, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think he came back or maybe left. It was weird. He left, came back. He may have left again. Yeah.
All right. Who knows with the portal, right? So that's why I really haven't looked at this yet. I'm waiting because you're even seeing now guys hitting portal still, which is weird, even though I don't think it's open.
It's open if your coach is fired.
Yeah.
So, or leaves, which Utah State is in a bad spot because Blake Anderson hasn't officially been fired.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is going to really hurt them. So yeah, interesting. So I think as the season gets closer, maybe we'll kind of do our own. Us at the WyoNation will kind of put together once we get into fall camp for all the teams, and we see when the season gets closer, we see how teams rosters are, see how they're doing injury wise. We'll see how it's going. Zachary has a question.
Mhm.
Here we go. I like it. How many of the last 8 years have we been picked above CSU? We are 7-1 against them in that period. Yeah, it seems the media is always high on the next year being the breakthrough year for the Sheep football program.
I mean, they got a great quarterback and a great wide receiver and their safety, but they lost a lot on defense. So I don't know if they're banking on
Yeah, I agree.
Norvell's offense, but Wyoming has always done well against Norvell's offenses anyway. It hasn't ever been when he was at Nevada, they did well against him. They've done well at they've shut down his offense. So I don't know. You have 7 new head coaches in the Mountain West. So I just think Colorado State's getting the votes based on what they have coming back on offense and just Norvell being in the conference for so long.
Yeah, no, that's a good memory too. I forgot about the turnover in the conference, head coaching wise. So yeah, some of these guys are facing it for the first time ever, and same thing with Wyoming. So I think Wyoming probably picked middle of the pack is probably about where we should be based on the fact that I think we do have a talented roster, but you are facing several things. You have a first-time head coach, which has resulted in a first-time defensive coordinator, and you have a brand new OC who's going to be implementing an offense that's going to be more balanced and who supposedly has introduced a lot of spread concepts. And you have a quarterback who has exactly one start to his name, who you're relying on. So there's a lot of question marks for Wyoming, but I think the same can be said for probably 2/3 of the conference.
Yeah. Is Jeff Phelps the new coach, the new defensive line coach that was here last year? Because I think there was even a new defensive line coach.
Yes,
And you have a new
because
safeties coach as well.
correct. Yep. Phelps came in after the old coach. I think he went to Houston because he's from the Texas area. He came to Wyoming from
Oscar.
Texas.
Yep.
Oscar. Yep, that's right. Giles. Oscar Giles left, went to Houston, and then Wyoming was lucky to get Phelps, who I think is good. He's a pretty good coach.
Yeah, he's a rental hire.
Yeah. So we'll see
Good
how
for
long he
us.
sticks around, but that's fine as long as if he does good enough to get hired away somewhere else, that means that he's coaching up the D line. So yeah, so there is your polls, and yeah, I think Wyoming being behind Colorado State is a little interesting. Right, Utah State could take a huge hit here in the portal in August, or July or August, which is crazy. Obviously, the bottom of that, right? Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, Hawaii, kind of the bottom of the conference. I think everybody agrees with that. I think San Diego State, Utah State, Wyoming, Colorado State, and I'd maybe even throw Fresno State in there, right? They could all be bouncing around, but I think, yeah, Boise State, Air Force are the 2 best teams, and then we'll see about UNLV, right? You have to sustain it. They had one good year, but now people will be looking at them as a threat because they were dominating at times last year.
Yeah, well, the go-go offense, people always figure out your offense. So if you don't change it, they'll figure it out pretty quickly. So,
all right, so there is the poll. And then let's move on to all conference honors. And Wyoming, we will sneak to, and I'm sure most of you know, but they had 3 guys make the all conference team. We'll start with the offense here. This is your preseason all Mountain West offense. And you will see there in the bottom half, 2 Wyoming players make it: offensive lineman Jack Walsh, and then tight end John Michael Gillenborg. So Wyoming getting 2 players onto the preseason first team offense. Your thoughts, Shea?
that's probably about right. I know, I think Whaley's like the one guy you think about being on there, but he didn't play a full season. He
Yeah.
was hurt.
We'll talk about him a lot later in the show here.
I think I think that's a good pick. Everybody's going to say, our place kicker, but he didn't exactly light it up. He was put in some bad positions.
Sure. Yes. Red Shoe Man.
Yeah.
Let's hope that he makes the right. Who cares about the preseason team?
Nobody
Let's
cares.
put a bunch of players on the postseason team, right?
Maybe we'll have a kick return on a postseason or a punt returner on the postseason team.
Maybe.
So
yeah,
I think it's right.
The kicker's possible too.
I guess maybe Noah at center maybe is like a dark horse that was left off the thing, but I'm okay with it. When 3 guys got picked, I was like, that's probably about right.
And I'm just seeing this what the heck is this guy's name? Tiger Shanks? Is this real?
Oh, I don't know.
You see that? Tiger Shanks? Are they pranking us? Does UNLV have a guy named Tiger Shanks?
I'm gonna have to.
That's awesome. We got to look this up.
I'm looking it up. Tiger Shanks.
Let's see the story behind Tiger Shanks. That can't be his real name. It's got to be a nickname, right?
Oh, it's real. Looking at the Las Vegas Sun here.
Tiger Shanks. Okay, what's the story about Tiger Shanks?
Please don't be behind a paywall here.
On-air research, folks.
Yeah. They don't. This is more of a story. I'd have to get on their website.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe we can check it out later.
Yeah, but he's real.
Okay. What about your thoughts about Mikey King being? I just realized that too. Mikey King being the quarterback.
I would say Boise's 5-star quarterback, but again, there's nobody else in the conference.
Yeah.
Mikey King just gets picked because there's literally no tape on any other quarterback besides maybe Colorado State's quarterback, and they had drama in the quarterback room at the end of the season. So,
yeah, good point. A lot of guys left.
Mikey King's the only guy left.
Yeah, the only one who started last year, and he was even hurt at times last year, quite a bit. If I remember right.
Wyoming hurt him.
Yeah. So interesting. So there is your first team All Mountain West offense. Let's move to the defense here. And there is your defense. And Wyoming gets 1 defensive lineman, but he's Wyoming's own from Casper. And that is Bertinoli, who is just he's a unit, is what he is.
I think it would probably help Jordan this year is if Gavin Meyer would have stuck around, but
big time.
Wyoming seems to reload on the defensive line pretty frequently with guys that we don't know who they are. So
yeah, I'm not worried about it, but yeah, I mean, it's too bad that we lost Meyer. And I forget, where did he end up again?
USC.
USC. All right, that's it. Yep.
Guess he wants to play for a bad defense. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, so that's the second time Wyoming has lost a defensive lineman to USC, with Solomon Byrd finishing his career there. So interesting, for sure.
You know what's crazy? Fresno State was picked second. They only had 2 picks, 1 on offense and 1 on defense.
Okay.
No, sorry, they had 3. They had 3 picks too.
Okay.
So I think it's, and remember, they only do 1 team. I think end of season is a 4-teamer essentially. So
I think it's 3 and honorable mention or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a lot. But I will say on here, yeah, I think at the end we will have more than 1 guy on defense.
The Tyreek Davis, if he stays healthy at cornerback, and probably Wyatt Eckler.
Zach says it's our 3rd USC transfer. So am I missing a guy that I didn't think of? Byrd?
The offensive lineman. Who was the offensive lineman that left? He squats 600 pounds and then.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. The guy from Denver. Paragon.
Yes. Yep.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Zach,
for
mentioning that. And Shea, you gave me the clue. And I'm like, oh yeah, Paragon. He was the guy who, he broke that weightlifting record, and then all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, we got to go get this guy. I mean, that's crazy. Right?
Like the next day he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been keeping tabs on him. We'll see how he does, I guess. But yeah, so I'd imagine that, we will probably have, it wouldn't surprise me if Wyoming had a guy at each level here. I think Shea at linebacker could break through because he's going to be in a spot to put up the numbers as Wyoming's middle linebacker
I
is
think
being.
he'll do way better at middle linebacker. He'll see the game differently because he was a quarterback. So I think being that middle linebacker spot will probably help him.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him. And then, as you said, the cornerback, I think if he stays healthy, I think he's pretty darn good. And you never know. Safety. Wyoming does a good job to get productive safeties that come out of nowhere. And so you could
Big
see one of
fan of
those
the
guys.
Petrino hire too. A big fan of that hire for those guys.
Yeah. Nope. And that was another coaching change, right? Bringing back
Yep.
Petrino. So, yeah, I think the defense is in good hands, and we can get into that maybe here. Do you want to talk about some interviews?
Yeah, I'll see some interviews here.
All right. So I watched I guess both yesterday. They had Whaley and Bergatoli sat together and did an interview, and then today Sawvell was live, and I got some quotes for you. Actually, more quotes from Sawvell, but we can talk about Whaley and Bernoulli yesterday. Just a couple things. One is that they say, and this is no surprise, they're right. The foundations of this program under Sawvell is still going to be cowboy tough, and really they haven't really noticed that anything's changed. It's going to be the same parameters that's made us successful all these years, but I think they are going to try to tweak what they can to go and improve those shortcomings that we may have. They both spoke highly of Sawvell, obviously, and I think he's just a tremendous players coach. We'll see if that has an impact on the field, and that's my concern. Is you just never know, right? I think
Yeah.
everything I've seen about Sawvell so far, nothing but positive reviews because of the way he deals with the players, and that's really where you have to be this day and age, is be a players coach. But right, we really won't know until we have a 2 or 3 game losing streak. Like, how does this guy tick? I don't know, just thoughts on that.
I think he's saying the right things. It sounds like there must be some help in the athletic department. I think Jay is just naturally a humble guy, and he spoke about that year he took off from college football trying to find himself again. That probably helped him, and unfortunately with us, we had to go through bowl trying to find himself during a season and 15 transfers. So Jay got to do it on himself. He realizes it's the players that are going to get him there, and he's got to trust his coaches. Where at times didn't feel like there was a lot of trust in the coaches. Even Whaley, he spoke highly, and he seems happy and ready to go. And it's nice to see if anybody's on Instagram and follows Jay, him and Harrison Whaley have a competition going to see who's the biggest guy. I think that buys in not only in the players but the fan base, because I like both style, but the fans pay the bills, especially in the state university. So, I guess we'll see how this NIL stuff does. It seems like Jay's bought into it and saying, all right, cool. And I think he was pretty hurt when Gavin Meyer left the program as well. You could see it that he was he loves his players, and I think he understands guys are willing to transfer and will transfer, but that one probably hurt him a little bit.
Last thing from Whaley was that he said that he wasn't healthy at any point last year, which is crazy. And you saw the production he had when he was healthy enough to, get on the field. 947 yards. And the guy says that he wasn't healthy at any point in the year, but now he is healthy. So I think that is a huge and great news for the offense.
I saw a stat. I think it's going to help him having a guy like DJ Jones and Dwayne McNeely as well. They're going to be like the Giants of old, where they had those 3 running backs just smashing into you and bringing you down. But Whaley wasn't even on the college football fastest guys, and last year he ran the 10th fastest out of any other player against Texas. That touchdown run,
I know,
nearly 22 miles an hour, and he was hurt.
Yes.
Just, it's wild. The guy has clearly lived in the weight room too, as you can see. So
yeah, and we can talk about that right now. So Sawvell had a bunch of quotes, and we'll get to them. But the first thing he mentioned was how the guys that were just getting after it in the weight room. And you hear that every year, right? Every offseason, you're bigger, faster, stronger. You're in the best condition of your life. But I think in Wyoming's case, it's going to be very interesting when they release like the official numbers to compare them. So if I were you, I would grab the depth chart from the spring, download it so you have the weights, and you're going to see some crazy numbers. Let's see. Do I have it written down here? I don't. Oh, I do. Whaley played last year at 190.
Oh, he's gonna be 210.
He's at 212 right now.
Oh my, that's a big boy.
I mean, you could see, man, he's just a bowling ball of muscle.
He'll lose some weight, which is probably okay. But
yeah,
good God, going into fall camp, he's probably gonna be 220 going into fall camp.
Yeah, and then so I mean, he'll probably end up being 200, 205, like towards the middle of the season. But if he can keep his speed and have that much extra muscle, I mean, wow, we got ourselves a running back. And he is
DJ Jones is big too, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if he's big. I think he's like 5'10". Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you look it up. But he's got some weight to him. He's not
That's
like
what I'm talking about. Like,
he's not a small back. Yeah. So I'm excited about this running back crew. Salvell also said McNeely might be full blow sometime in the first half of the season. So it sounds like he's going to miss some games still, which is disappointing. But you have Jones, you have Whaley, you have Sam Scott, of course, the hero in the Texas Tech game.
Yeah.
And he mentioned Farrell. So, I mean, Wyoming's really got like 5 guys who've been productive running backs in college football.
But they got a big running back coming at that kid, I think from Nebraska. They got a big time running back recruit coming in as well. So,
yep. Another player who's put on a lot of weight is Ecker. Wyatt Ecker's gone from 190 to 200 plus at safety.
He's going to be like, remember when they did the experiment with one of the Anzacha brothers at safety?
Yeah.
He's going to be that big. Hopefully he doesn't lose his speed because he's fast too.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what you got to think about for both these guys, right? Is hopefully they're keeping their speed, and I'm sure they are because they're getting tested for that. And if they're putting on too much weight to where they're getting too slow, I think the strength staff would say something for sure.
Yeah. Got some crazy numbers.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'd like to see what and he said there were others, but those were the 2 that Salvell mentioned. So let's see. Let's get some quotes from him. He says, excited to be at his first media days. He says, now things feel real. I'm a head coach. The season's coming up. They asked him about how is he going to put his stamp on the program, and he said there's going to be a lot of carryover from Craig Bull, and the impact that he's going to have is going to be behind the scenes, making sure that everybody every day is doing what they have to in terms of step by step, process wise, living day by day. And then he mentioned, hey, last year we were undefeated at home, but we were terrible on the road. And I think that's what he wants to do, is to get that work ethic in them, get that mindset in them to road or away. We're going to do the same processes. You're going to do the same work to kind of even that record out.
Yeah, he actually mentioned the playoff. He goes, if we could have won on the road, we were in position to be in the playoff, or in not the playoff itself, but I guess like that group of 5.
Winning that group of, yes, Wyoming. I mean, there was 2-3 week period where you had all the projections, right? ESPN, Fox, they were projecting Wyoming as the G5 representative in the playoff.
And then they sleepwalked into Boise. Didn't even want to show up for that game.
Yeah, and then you see what happened. And I think that's what he's talking about, right? Is not getting too high, is behind the scenes, putting your work in, staying humble, not focusing on winning titles. And that's what he said. If you guys out there haven't listened to Ryan Thorburns interview with him, which I think is maybe like 2 months old now, it's an excellent interview. And he talks a lot about his upbringing at Mount Union. And he talked about it today. He said at Mount Union, they're a national championship machine. But he said, we never talked about winning titles. We just talked about win the next game. And it will work itself out. And I think that's where kind of Bowl kind of got away from things. It was always, we got to put pelts on the wall and stuff. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Do your work. Do your
work.
Win
a game. Yeah.
And Mount Union, too. This is also another crazy thing. So I never thought of this. So Mount Union right, is at a level where they don't have scholarships. So he said the football roster was like over 200 players, and you would have like 4 or 5 guys fighting week to week for that one position. So think about how these guys, these Mount Union coaches, they're all pretty productive. If you look at the guys I should know off the top of my head, but there's a lot of guys who played at Mount Union and become coaches. And I think it's because of that, is because they had this huge football roster. And he's like, your job, you might be the starter week 1, but it doesn't mean you'll start in week 2, because you got 4 or 5 guys, because of the roster so big, fighting for playing time.
Yeah.
I
You
think
just
it's
need that culture. Yeah.
really interesting. And right, and Bowl kind of set that here, kind of using the Nebraska walk-on system. And Wyoming's developed a great walk-on system. And I guess, I don't know if you saw this, Shea, but Pete Thamel, I think, had the report, right? There were some silliness knocking around that they were going to cut football rosters to 85 and
Yeah.
get rid of the walk-on program, but it sounds like they're not going to do that, thankfully. And the new limit is going to be somewhere between 110 and 120 players. So that'll still give every team to have a pretty robust walk-on program, which is great news for Wyoming.
Yeah. The bigger schools will just they'll just NIL them, some players to them without a scholarship, but
Sure, but at least they can't load up on like 150 of them, right? Because I know that's what some
yeah.
of these like SEC schools, that's what they're doing. They're just giving the guys de facto scholarships through NIL. And that's where this roster cut down numbers coming from, to harness that.
You would have lost it wouldn't have mattered. You would have lost like people just would have gone NAIA where you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it would have been a wild time. But I'm glad, I know the NCAA is on its way out, but at least they made one good decision before they're
Yeah,
implode.
exactly. You and I have similar views on that. Other thing he said, that he wants to be a servant leader to the players. But he said, but that doesn't mean the players don't need pushed sometimes to improve themselves or do the right thing. So I think he's got a good balance of being a player's coach, but installing discipline in the roster.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's probably behind the scenes. He probably pushes the guys pretty tough.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be very interesting to see how his first fall camp goes. To hear interviews, hear what leaks out of stuff. And on that note, it was just reported that fall camp will start July 31st this year. So we're just 20 days away from Wyoming opening up their fall camp in Laramie.
I think you mentioned pre-show. Media gets a free look that day, day one. We'll have some live tweets at fall camp.
Yep. At least that first one. We'll see. Maybe that might be the only one that's open. Who knows? But they had like 1 or 2 practices a week that were open during spring. So I'd imagine it might stay the same for fall camp, which was helpful for the media to get to see some of the players, especially with the roster turnover and the new systems that are going to be put in place.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty much all I had. You have anything from media days, some breadcrumbs that you would tackle?
No, I think when I watched Jordan, I think he was pretty upset that some of the other guys weren't on the preseason team with them. So it seems like they're going to use it as bulletin board material, and we don't have to hear those who stay will be champions and all that other fluff. Is like, hey, put it up. This is what they think of me, and guys are clearly going to use it. Harrison's Whaley looked like he was going to run through a brick wall there when he found out he wasn't on it. So,
yeah, no, and Savell said the same thing. He said, hey, we're not going to complain about this. We're going to use it as motivation. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think the poll's fair, the teams are fair, but in the end, right, it's spurred to make conversation. But in the end, it really doesn't matter. All right. Well, I'll let you lead this conversation. Start off with um, Wyoming today added a new football coach, and I guess
Ooh.
I will go a little ahead of you, and you can break it down for everybody and let everybody know what happened. But I will say that I think 2 weeks ago now, the NCAA passed new rules that they've been talking about for a few years now, but thank God they finally did it. Is they removed the barriers on the number of football coaches a team can have. So in the past, I think it used to be 10 that could recruit and be on the field. And now they've changed the rule that only 10 can recruit, but on game days and during practices, it's basically unlimited. So you're going to see football staffs get to like NFL staffs where you have assistant coaches at each position. So this is great for programs like Wyoming who have to develop players to get more coaches. And I was wondering if Wyoming was going to take advantage of this. And I'll let Shea let you know who they brought in to be their new coach.
The all-purpose leader at Wyoming, Javon Bonite, is coming home. So it's going to be, he's probably going to get Mike Grant a pay raise after all the work he's going to put in and all the big programs he's been at, in his career. I know he kind of flamed out at Marshall, but man, what a hire. Because there was rumors that he was never going to come back to Laramie.
Yeah, no, I've heard the rumors too that he didn't like it there, or his wife didn't like it, or whatever.
Yes.
But he's been at Marshall, Kentucky, Oregon, Texas Tech, and he does have Mountain West experience because I think one of his first jobs was at Utah State.
Yep, he was there for like 10 years at Utah State with Matt Wells.
Yep, so that is good. So he knows the conference. Obviously, he knows Wyoming. And I forgot that he was the all-time yards leader. So I've got that at about 5,900 all-purpose yards is what he had in his career. And that's still number one. And as a receiver, I mean, this guy was unbelievable, especially because at that point in time, we had like nobody else. It was a one-man.
Yeah, he was it.
It was a one-man show. 250 receptions, 3,626 yards, and 29 touchdowns. His receptions and yards are only behind two guys named Harris and Yarbrough.
God, I wonder if they bring, just random guys back. Tanner Gentry was back around the team a lot last year as well. So,
yep.
Maybe we start seeing that more. Maybe some former players start coming back and talk about the history of what it feels like to be in the war when it's rocking.
Sure. I did see Gentry was here in the Denver area. When was it? I think he was at a camp. I remember there was some kind of like local high school camp, and they're bringing in local guys who played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Just to talk to him, and Gentry was there, which was good to see. Bo Knight's coming in as a offensive analyst and assistant wide receivers coach. And so again, he may be able to recruit, but they would have to I don't know how those rules work if you can do them in shifts. I don't think you can. I think you have to designate your 10 recruiters. But the good news is Bo Knight will be on the field during practice. He'll be on the field during game days, and he'll be assisting Mike Grant in coaching the wide receivers. So when you have the third leading receiver in school history on your coaching staff, that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, he was a Swiss Army knife because he played running back.
Yeah.
He had the best catch ever against Ole Miss from Josh Barge.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that play.
So I think it's good, and that's how you excite a fan base as well. You talk about all this NIL stuff. Now you can play off stuff like that, and
sure. Yeah, and he's done it here at a high level. He's been in some dynamic offenses, right? So he might be able to bring some stuff. Kentucky, Oregon, Texas Tech, Matt Wells at Utah State. They're all high octane passing games. So not to say that we need to run that, of course, at Wyoming, but if he can, help teach some route concepts, help get these guys running crisper routes, it's really going to help our offense because that's been our problem is getting guys open.
That complicated route tree.
Yeah, it's so complicated. We can't teach it, right?
The players are so confused they don't know what routes to run or to do. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see if that changes under Jay Johnson. I don't know, but
Just simplify it.
I think that's what they're going to do, right? We'll see. We'll see once fall camp gets going. They'll have their own media days in Laramie before practice opens, which I'm going to hope to get to this year, actually, so I could ask some of these questions that the
Oh,
people want
nice.
to know.
You should ask Javon is if he knew that this was coming when he found out he got it into the Hall of Fame.
There we go.
Because
Maybe
he just they just had
I
a big
know
interview
they did.
about it.
Yeah, they
So,
did. Yep, he's being elected to the Hall of Fame, which is great to see this fall. And I actually have a story about Bo Knight
oh,
because him and I were at Wyoming at the same time. So I was going to school there, and I don't know, I must have been I think I was probably a junior, and I was working at the dorms at the time. And I'm the actually one who checked him into his very first dorm room. I didn't know he was going to be a star. He was a skinny kid.
yeah, he's still not a big guy when
Yeah,
I saw him coach here.
and he developed into be an absolute stud. But yeah, so I'll just take the credit. I think it was the room that I got him. That made
Yeah.
him so good.
I'm sure what it was overlooking whatever restaurant used to be by the subway there that just keeps
Yeah.
rotating in and out. He's like, oh, this is the room for me. I can see Washington Park.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my connection to Javon Bo Knight. So I checked him into his dorm when he moved to Laramie to start school.
And that was almost 20 years ago. He was destroying people.
Yeah.
Single-handedly carrying the offense with nobody else.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, you should look at some of those rosters, and I don't know if you can find highlights of him from back then, but yeah, he was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I wanted to hear, I'm sure Ryan will probably have the first interview with him, or maybe Cody, and you can, why did you come back? That's what you want to hear. Why
Yeah.
now?
I'm sure who knows? Doesn't matter. He's here. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
kind of shocked to see it. So good. It's right. This new rule has really opened things up. And I'll be interesting to see if Wyoming adds perhaps somebody on the defensive side of the ball as well to help coach things out. And I think over time, I think we'll expand, but it
Yeah.
comes down to money and resources. And that's why hopefully somebody will ask Salvell here soon if he has plans to take advantage of this rule, because especially at positions where you got a lot of people, it's good to have an extra set of eyes to help run guys through drills and to help them out. So I could see defensive backs being one that would be huge, right? Because a lot of times you have a safety coach and a cornerbacks coach. If you can get some help there, that helps, right? Defensive linemen even, right? Because the difference between a DN and a D tackle is quite a bit different. So
especially in Wyoming's defense.
yeah, so I think you'll see some specialty coaches, and we'll see if Salvell adds to his staff. I'd imagine, right, that window has only got a couple more weeks to where they'll be able to do that efficiently. But it's something to watch out for.
It is interesting. Javon's coming back. I never coached here, but you have Brian Hendricks on the roster. Petrino was here with. He may have been just after Bo Knight because he was a cross staff member with DC. But it is weird to see these guys coming back to Wyoming and the bridges weren't burned or they don't hold any ill will as staffs were let go and stuff like that. That former players are coming back and obviously it's got to be a recruiting connection because Javon's from Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Hendricks is I think best friends with Napton, and he's running a big program I think in Colorado.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see why some of the old guys keep coming back. Or I didn't think we were going to hire Jay Johnson, but here we are.
I did. Because I did.
I didn't think we could land him.
Well, he was let go, so
yeah, but he's still a great coach. I figure.
Sure. Yeah, and we'll get more into that. I think that's really the story of this upcoming fall camp is how does the offense change? And yeah, so we're going to have, hopefully they'll have some media availability for Johnson during fall camp. Hopefully the players will answer questions. I know they're going to try to be quiet as much as they can, right? To
Yeah.
not get any information out there. But as far as we know right now, Whaley during spring ball was saying, hey, it's going to be up tempo. It's going to be no huddle, which is interesting, right? You can, that could work against you if you're not doing it effectively, right? If you're running an up tempo offense at altitude, you're going 3 and out, right? That's the complete opposite of what Bull was doing when we were doing, grind the ball.
But Texas Tech, I mean, they ran a no huddle, but they get up to the line and survey your defense
Mm-hmm.
and try to see what you were doing, or they would just snap the ball quick. Like
It can do both,
like
yeah.
Wyoming would get in these 3 tight end sets, and then the play clock would be at 3, and you're like, well, here comes a run up the middle.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the offense evolves, how much difference it is going to be. And we'll have to wait until Arizona State to figure it out because we're not going to hear or see much until then, I don't think.
No, it sounds like the guys got used to what the heat's going to be like on August 31st when the game kicks off.
Yeah. So there we go. So that is the wrap up of Mountain West days. And then the bonus news that Cody Tucker broke before Wyoming officially announced it is that Javon Bonite is coming home to coach his alma mater, which is good to see. So, any last words, Shea?
No, looking forward to doing it again, and I'm getting ready to ramp up for wrestling season, getting ready to start here in 2 months. So I'll continue my own little coverage on the side as well for that.
Yeah. And we'll try to work to do a wrestling show. I know Brad is into it as well with you, so you guys can do that, and hopefully we can get some the coach get Branch on or some wrestlers. I think is doable.
Yeah,
Because Wyoming wrestling really is pretty amazing what they're able to do with the resources they have to compete at the level they do.
yeah. I guess hearing from some of the guys that Wyoming's facilities are actually a step above a lot of the bigger programs as well. So good on Coach Branch for staying in tune, because there's some other programs that are bigger than Wyoming, but Wyoming's facilities are better. So.
All right, everybody. So that's going to be all for this week's edition of the WyoNation Roundup. Thank you for joining us. We will be back soon because football season's getting closer. The EA Sports game is getting closer.
8 days. You got 20 days to fall camp.
So we'll have lots to talk about. We'll be breaking down some position groups and stuff like that. All your normal stuff as teams get closer. So until then, everybody take care. For Shea, I'm Chad Smith. We'll see you next time.